Hello everybody, this is Matthew Ames of Ames Active. This is your video notebook for back in balance. In a moment I'm going to show you the band exercises that we did, but in this week's class we talked about going upstairs and downstairs. Specifically, we spoke about when we are attempting to go upstairs, the thing that tends to happen is we lift our leg, and as we lift our leg we tend to go backwards in order to lift it. Or if we're already standing on the stair, we tend to try and bring the leg forward and then we catch it on the stair. Obviously, the chair is much higher than your stair step would be. So what we worked on specifically was putting one leg to the front and one leg in the back. Now, if I lift my heel, my knee goes forward. When my knee goes forward, that's when I tend to have a flat foot, and that's when it gets caught on things. So the first thing that we started doing was we started to activate the back leg. The way we did this was we thought about a spatula under the arch of the foot. And just like you would check the bottom of a pancake to see if it's ready, we're going to lift the arch. As you do that, it is now going to move your knees over your ankle, your hips over your knee, and your shoulder over your hip. So it's one straight line. Then we lower it back down. So we went up and lowered back down and up, lowered back down. From the back, that looks like this. You see the entire body move forward and move back and move forward and move back. Once again, this is really high for a step, but just so you can see that action happening. If my knee is up and my body weight is over here, I'm 220 pounds of pure persuasion. That is a lot to try and get this little joint as well as this tiny muscle and this muscle to not only lift vertically, but then also move over alignment. So just trying to push up from this position is really hard. And you'll notice the natural reaction is to fall backwards. So the concept that we have with this ankle raise, or rather this arch raise, is if I raise my arch, I've now put my body over top of the leg, allowing me proper alignment to move upward. I'm also now stretching and putting half of that raise onto the back foot and half onto the front foot. So now each leg is responsible for 50% of the work. Additionally to that, we started working on our plies. I did this in a different video. The plie simply, in this case, is the good old American squat, which is a tri-fold. My ankles are moving back, my knees are moving forward, my hips are moving back. If you have trouble standing on one leg, start with this exercise. The idea is that from this lower position, we're going to think about stretching away from the floor, not trying to push down into the floor. I will give you a hint. That floor is solid, that stair is solid, it's not going anywhere. So the idea is to create more space in the leg. Now, we said if you are feeling confident, you're feeling stable, the next thing to do is to remove one foot. You can use that toe for balance. You can place it wherever you would like. I prefer placing it in the front because that's usually where the leg is going to be when I'm going up and down stairs. Then I'm going to melt on keeping all my weight on that foot. Notice my shoulder, my hip, my knee are all in alignment, and I'm pressing up. This is going to develop that one leg strength. It's going to train the glute muscle, the quadricep, the calf to be able to strengthen and bring you through that full movement. So the idea is once we get used to being able to press onto one foot, I am now moving off the back leg with the raise. Now I am over top. You could see that my shoulders are over my ankles. My hip is there. Only my knee is out. But as I stretch away from that landing, I am now fully vertical. Please don't try this on a chair. I usually recommend starting off with something like a one step on an actual staircase, holding on to the railings, or getting one of those small platforms like a stepper Not too high. Once again, something very, very stable, just so you get used to the change in elevation. But before even doing the elevation, practicing the moving over the foot, going down, and coming up. That one-legged squat action is also going to be where if I maintain that, that's how I lower down onto the next step. If I lean forward, obviously you could see I'm going to be going down, and those stairs, depending on which one you are, have a very long distance to go. So that is what we covered in your stair exercises. So once again, staying vertical, keeping that size of an apple. Yes, you can look down, but don't let it affect your posture. Last but not least, exercises that we did with the band. We were talking about creating the stability in the hip, and more importantly, the mobility. So what we did was we held onto the band. We had a little bit of tension. We're going to allow the band to assist us in bending the leg up to the shoulder, and then we stretch out the band. Let the band assist you and actually bring up. So I'm not trying to bring my knee myself, but I'm letting the elastic band pull my foot into that position. We did this on both sides. Just to be clear, we made sure that when we did this, the action was knee up and down as opposed to knee forward and back. So it was not a kicking action. It was the band assisting and pulling the leg up into a higher position in order to work the hinging action at the hip. Additionally, in our arm exercises, we did a forward position, we lifted up, and we brought it down. We said if you had any shoulder impingements, not to bring it overhead, but rather think about the kinesphere, that bubble around us. We're touching the front of the bubble, we're going up, and wherever your arms stop because of your shoulder injuries, that's fine. If you have the ability, go ahead, go all the way up, but don't let your arms pass over your ears. Now, once we got into that position, we went up and down several times. Then we created as much space as we could from the hip all the way up to the shoulder. And we created as much stretch as we could from hip to shoulder. We did not decrease the size between the hip and shoulder. Rather, on the opposite side, we increased. Finally, we used the bands, we tucked them behind the shoulders. We went into our Rocky Balboa exercises. We said we could do this in the chair. If you do it in the chair, it's going to be the same thing. We said we're going to set up into a nice stable position. You'll notice that my belly button is in the center of my two legs. My legs are on the diagonal. We had our jab. Our jab is the same front leg, same front arm, and we went out to in, stretching the band. Now, as we did that, we wanted to make sure we weren't trying to punch across, but rather that we came straight out from that arm. And as we did, we used the back and we used the hips to get a full body workout in there. Now, we also did the cross. So we took that backhand, and from the back, I moved forward and I stretched through the back from the back leg. As I did that, I'm lifting the heel to get that rotation in there. Once again, I'm not trying to punch across myself, but rather reach out directly from that shoulder. Now, the reason we did this is most of the time when we use our arms, we can go in one plane of motion, but a lot of times we are pulling something open. We are pushing something or turning something and flipping something. So what we tried to do was not only work the arm muscles in here, but start working all of those back muscles that are attached so that we're working globally over the entire body as opposed to just locally. Now, the last one that we did, we said depending on the length of your band. You could either drop it down to the floor under a foot, or you could leave it under your thigh. And then we did a simple curl. We did the arm up to the shoulder and down. This curl we did 3 different ways. The first way we did was a simple bicep curl. The biggest thing that we talked about is that we did not want to bend the wrist, because that's going to put a lot of strain on those tendons and ligaments. Instead, it's sort of like the old shtick where they would have the surgeon wash his hands and have the nurse put on the gloves. We want to keep that nice straight line from elbow to the top of the knuckles. In the second version that we did, that would be palm facing the shoulder. We had the palm facing in. So now it was a hammer curl. And I'm not quite sure, I don't remember now that it is 2 days later, but we also have where we keep the palm facing out. That is also an option. I like to call this the lawnmower starter, or if you have a heavy comforter this time of year, it's where we try and pull the blankets up from the end of the bed. So thank you very much. That was your video notebook review for Back in Balance at the Brookfield Senior Center. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful day.